one of the fires that just happened to be in the area was never part of the pattern to us. We knew it was a commercial and it was an insurance job, but the press had lumped these cases all in together. And when they arrested them, even the press was saying things like this building is part of the pattern. And the insurance company investigators paid our suspects because they thought, well, you caught the guy. And when we submitted subpoenas to get copies of records and files from them, they were like, I thought this matter was closed. I'm like, no, we never charged him for this. They were like, oh, well, God, are you kidding me? I said, yeah, we're looking at your insured. That's why we're subpoenaing the file. And, I think
that's amazing when you talk about even a case like this, the power of the press, and that they basically printed or gave out false information. You hear the term fake news, and that's fake news, and look, there are victims of fake news, false reporting,
Well, look at Richard Jewell. I mean, probably, they've made a movie out of it now, so it's, gotten a lot more attention. But, you look at what happened to him with the press, and, it's a funny thing, Bill, and you know this from all the homicide cases you had. When a major crime happens and it gets in the papers and on television, everybody wants to feel you've got a handle on it. Who are you looking at? What are you doing? You hate to go in there and say, I don't know who did it. I'm not looking at anybody yet.
Right.
That just makes, their head explode when they hear that. And
the press, I think, invented the term person of interest, which I hate that term, because, everyone is a suspect in the beginning of a homicide till the facts lead you to a specific person. But, where person of interest, police don't talk like that.
We had one of the times that it really hamstrung us, there was in the 6-6 precinct, there was a man, Israel Halberstam, and he was going to work, and a bomb went off, and he lost his leg, and it was a major investigation, and he's in the hospital, and we're trying to talk to him, and I got to say that I don't think he was being as forthcoming. Yourself, once a homicide comes in, we dig into all aspects of your life. If you play around on your wife, we're probably going to find out about it. If you're a gambler, we're going to find out about it. If you're taking drugs, we're going to find out about it. And I think he had a lot of things in his past that I don't want to put out there that, he was worried about us finding out. And I don't think he was as forthcoming as he needed to be certainly with me in the beginning. He had different rapports with different members of the squad, but he read in the papers that we were looking at him as a suspect, which we weren't. And it came out in I won't say the newspaper, but, it was one of the major New York papers. And the next thing you know, he's lawyering up and he doesn't want to talk to us. And now we're spending all this time trying to undo the damage that the press did. And I mean, I know the reporter, and I talked to him years later, and I don't ask him to tell me who it was, but I said, give me a hint where it goes. It came from very high sources in the department. So,
well, that's the police department is our own worst enemy, because
always
they give too much information to the press. We had a huge homicide case of a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor, and we had all the perps ID. We were going to pick them up that morning, and DCPI calls me, and they wanted an update on the case, and I told them all the perps were ID'd, and we were going to get them that morning. The detective, says, what's their names? I said, I'm not giving you their names because, we need statements, confessions.
Statements, yeah.
And next thing I know, he just handed the phone to his inspector, who gets on the phone and starts screaming at me. Who am I to decide that blah, 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 blah. Anyway, make a long story short, we went out, collared them, and got confessions. Then we released the information to DCPI,
I'll give you one that was in the arson case that we had in the one that you profiled before on the Rockaways. There was a reporter from the New York Times, and I have some friends who are reporters in the New York Times, but this guy wasn't someone I had a relationship with. And he had done some ride-alongs with detective squads and and that was kind of his thing. And he wanted to come out and work this case with us. And DCPI, oh, you want him to come out with you? And I'm like, yeah, I really don't want to do that. And next thing I know, myself and my bosses are getting called up to DCPI and basically saying, you will take him out. So for a week, I lost a week on the case, just taking this guy out and like kind of, I figured, all right, I'll take him out, go to some of the old crime scenes, give him a little dog and pony and he'll go away. And he just, I said, the only way this guy's going to go away is if nothing happens. So we just basically didn't really do anything constructive on the case for a week, and then he went away. And then we get back to work, because
And you didn't hit him up for like 5 or 6 meals on his gold New York Times American Express card?
he never even offered, which is
good. Then you have to really get rid of him quick.
But
your Arson background, your Arson explosion background, come in handy in your current role as a private investigator?
It does. Like I said, I do arson and fire and bombing investigations. Mostly, I've been called on defense on cases. A lot of them are cases outside of New York City.
As an expert witness, you get called.
As an expert witness. It's also, because arson and bombing cases are very technical. Often prosecutors or defense people, they'll probably not have an experience with it. So you start reading all the terms. A lot of times they don't know what to, they'll ask for discovery. And it's funny thing, once you become a private investigator and you work this side of it, you hear about things as a detective, as discovery, and you find out, unless you ask for something specifically, there's a good chance you won't get it.
Yes.
And, with most cases, you know to ask for the 61, the voucher, but do you know what to ask the fire department for? Are you getting the battalion chief report? Are you getting the incident report? Are you getting the job tickets? There's things that are specific to
the unusual occurrence is well, now, when I left the job 9 years ago, a big investigative report was called the preliminary investigative worksheet, which became almost like a term paper because I had to write it at work. And when there was a homicide, very often it could amount to, 8 to 10 pages of information, which was utilized to brief the police commissioner and was also given to the press, which, could bit us in the ass on multiple occasions. But that report, also could be subpoenaed as discovery by the defense.
You remember, I only knew this because our mutual friend, the late great Tom Nerney, was working on. I think it was like a report it was like a report that was narrowly and specifically meant for the chief of detectives, and I have a lot of information, somewhat like you've described, although probably not in that kind of detail. And it didn't get turned over in the discovery process, and a lot of bad guys found out about it and went to court and finally, they had to be the research and get it. And, we create a lot of that. Some of the problems that I've had too is that you would have almost everything we did in Arson and Explosion was very press intense, but especially like when you have a bombing case. And when you have a bombing case, everybody comes out to get their ticket punched. I always said, like,
I love that. I love that expression. Explain that to our audience, what it means to get your ticket punched. It's such a funny expression, but it's so damn true. Tell them what that is.
It's
well, let's use the Miracle on the Hudson. That's a great incident. Everyone and their brother in the police department wanted to be at that scene, right?
Sure.
And they want to be seen there, and that's called getting your ticket punched. I'm sorry I stole your thunder, but to me, that's the greatest example of it. I mean, there were people coming from Queens and Brooklyn. Wait, what are you guys doing? This is Manhattan, just to get their ticket punched, as you said.
It's funny when you talk about that, when they were doing the unusual or the Rockaway case, and, every politician, literally, like Mayor Giuliani came, Judge Brown came, all the Queens politicians, Claire Schulman, everybody came to be there at the press conference. to talk about it. And when they were putting it together, it was our bosses with DCPI, and they were like, okay, what can we say this one did on the case? What can we say that one did on the case? And, you know, I'm not politically correct with this. I'm like, listen, I'll tell you they didn't do a goddamn thing. If you want to write something in there, I'm not going to call you a liar, but I'm not going to give you the lie.
I love when they have press conferences from these major scenes and they start thanking all these politicians for what? What did they
What?
do? What did they do? They breathe oxygen? What is their role here, you know?
You know, it's funny. My partner, I, Kevin Perrette, we did the arson of a synagogue in Riverdale, which was
Was he a street crime guy too?
Yes, he was.
I remember him. I interviewed him for RIP, I think.
Yeah, he's another great, another retired first grade detective. He's out there doing fire investigations. I was talking to him the other day. We're on a online training course together. But it was actually the first hate crime in New York State. The hate crime law passed, and at midnight that night, the fire happened, and these kids came in from Yonkers and set fire to a synagogue in the 5-0, and you know, it was 3 hours into the law. So what a hate crime charge does to a case is the way an attempt lowers it a degree. In other words, like an attempt will make it an A or B.
Right.
Being designated as a hate crime raises it a level.
Right.
So it makes your B and A, if you know what I'm saying, for charging purposes. And, you know, it's just, you know, we were lucky to get the first one, but then, you know, you had all that press. And the reason I bring it up is that I won't embarrass the politician, but, you know, he came and gave us awards. And the next day, his press people are calling me at headquarters saying, can we say that, you know, he did this and he did that, and, you know, and trying to really wrap himself up in the case. And I'm like, listen, I'm not saying that. Well, you know, he gave you an award. I'm like, you can come back to my desk and get it. You know, I was like,
so
wow.
great, right?
I mean,
let me
just the audacity to say that.
Let me perjure myself for future court appearances, you know?
And you know, that's an important thing. You know, when you hear these things, like, you know, you heard in the clips you showed, you know, Chief Ruther, you know, I'm sure they threw a lot of information at him, but I mean, a lot of the things he says there, well, they're not exactly correct. And I remember being in the room watching him say this, and I'm certainly not going to correct him.
Right.
Certainly not on television. And I was cringing, like, oh, he didn't just say that, you know,
right.
Things like, well, the guy's a little off. I'm like, you're not helping this guy build his defense case that, you know, he's not a
right. Give him a mental,
you know, yeah. I mean, was he able to wave Miranda? Is he crazy? Is he, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't help you.
I was so tired from being up for 2 days. I didn't care at that point.
You know, Bill, I think we are at an hour and 15 minutes. And I think, you know, if we're going to come, you're going to always welcome to come back on the show. But we covered a lot today in regards to Arson and Explosion. I'm sure we didn't even scratch the surface of the amount of cases and the information you have on this topic, obviously, because you teach it. But as far as our audience, I think they got a pretty good bang for their buck. They love that. They love that word in the police department, a bang for your buck, right? So
when you got a guy who does bombings, we want a bang.
Yeah, bang for your buck.
Or maybe we don't.
Do you have anything that you want to plug right now, or?
You know, just if you know, we certainly do fire investigations, but we do all kinds of insurance cases, criminal cases. You know, we're a full service PI firm, we're Ryan Investigative Group. We're at 934 4th Avenue in Brooklyn and Sunset Park, 347-417-1610. You can find us online at Ryan Investigators, or on Facebook or Instagram, or
LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn too.
On LinkedIn, yeah.
LinkedIn. That's right.
Yeah, LinkedIn's a great source. I've found so many helpful people on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, is an excellent source. I find.
Yeah, I love LinkedIn.
For police off the cuff on LinkedIn, actually. Yeah. So anyway, this has been, believe it or not, episode number 10 of Real Crime Stories, where we, besides my role with Mark DeMeo in doing police off the cuff, we both do a separate show. Mark does one-on-one with Mark DeMeo, And I do real crime stories with Bill Cannon, where we interview retired detectives and members of the service in regards to interesting cases. And today we had retired first grade detective Bill Ryan. And Bill, I want to just thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we'll stay in touch, and I'm sure you'll be back.
Well, I'll see you next week on Off the Cuff. I watch every week.
All right, brother. Good talking to you.
Have a good one. Thanks for reaching out, Bill.
All right, bye now.
Thank you, everyone.